Okay, everybody, this is Dave Cadet, and this is your Marketing 260 final exam prep. There will be 30 multiple choice questions and 30 marks associated with a small case for you to read and analyze. Let's first take a look at some study points for those multiple choice questions. Keep in mind this is worth 30% of your final grade, so well worth putting in the extra effort for. From Chapter 1, the definition of marketing. Do not just memorize the definition of marketing, but get to know the components of that definition. Things like transaction, mutual benefit, availability, willingness, all of those things which go to make marketing work. Chapter 2, we looked at external environmental forces, namely competitive forces, social forces, regulatory or political forces, technological forces. You should know the drill by now. These forces present us with either opportunities and or threats. And opportunities and threats are one half of what was covered more deeply in Chapter 3, SWOT. Again, don't just memorize what SWOT stands for or even what it means, but know the intricacies of it, know how it works, know what each one of those parts really means, and specifically know the differences between the positive things, such as strengths and opportunities, and the negative things, like weaknesses and threats. There are differences between them. There's also a piece in here on organizational planning with regards to resources and opportunities, which you should know about. On to Chapter 5, the consumer decision process. Know all 5 steps. Know also specifically around that 4th step where a consumer is making a decision and some of those influencing factors such as reference groups and specific types of reference groups. Chapter 6 was the business version of the purchase decision process. So we looked at a lot of comparisons between B2B and B2C. You should know those differences, the major ones anyway. On to Chapter 7, where we went from looking at the market as a whole to the target market who companies specifically direct their marketing efforts towards. In the middle of that is this process called segmentation. So why do we bother segmenting, and what do we base our segmentation on? Chapter 9 turned the page into the second half of the course. We got into the 4 Ps and started with products. So Chapter 9 covered a long list of different terms regarding classifying products: consumer goods, business goods, unsought goods, convenience goods, and so on. And we also looked at the differences between goods and services. Tangibility is a key term here. Tangibility with regards to differentiating those two goods and services types of products. Chapter 10 went deeper into products, starting with the development of new products, how new products are actually developed, and what makes new products work where some do not work at all. We also talked about how all new products eventually hit a growth stage and a maturity stage and a decline stage, otherwise known as the product life cycle. So get to know that as well. Chapter 11 fully designated 2 services part of products. So know what the 4 I's are of services, not just intangibility, but the other things that drew differences between services and goods. And also, being that nonprofit organizations are pretty much always service-based, we talked about some marketing programming challenges for nonprofits. Chapter 12 was our distribution or place P discussion. We talked about non-traditional forms of marketing channels and the role of intermediaries. There are 3 main roles and 3 main types of intermediaries that we discussed, so you should know those. Chapter 14 was our promotions chapter. We talked about IMC being sort of the contemporary term for promotions, integrated marketing communications, but we also talked about how whether it's promotions or IMC, there are still 5 main categories of promoting our goods and services. So you should know those 5 types of promotions. Chapters 18 and 19 were all about price. Chapter 18, more of an overview of the concept of price, where it comes from, how it's formed, what it means symbolically and technically. We talked about things like supply and demand and the demand curve, elasticity of demand, and what is the definition of price in both, as I said, technical and symbolic ways. Chapter 19 got into more specifics on price, such as strategies and methodologies, along with considerations for price depending on stage of the product life cycle. And what is the impact of internet on pricing? There have been changes amongst all other 3 categories of the 4 Ps with regards to internet. So what has internet done for pricing? Your case. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you, nor am I going to read it to you, but I can tell you that it's going to be solved or made successful by those who put extra time into reading and analyzing with an open mind and objective thinking. This is sort of at the heart of critical thinking. So when you're reading the case, don't jump to a conclusion as to what the solution is. Think about all possible solutions before determining your preferred alternative. In amongst that thought process will be terms like SWOT, target market, product market grid, otherwise known as Ansough's matrix, different promotional ideas and price ideas as well. So, in short, the case is sort of a microcosm of your entire Marketing 260 course. Good luck with it. We'll see you when you write.